There we go. Now we are full force, ready to go. Take a moment, everyone, to share out this page if you are watching right now. And we are only streaming on Facebook. I know that sounds so sad. We're only streaming on Facebook. It's okay, though. It's all good. So just take a moment. So if I look a little preoccupied, that's because I am sharing this out so everybody gets to see it. And of course, it will be it's recorded. So if you're not able to see it now, you'll be able to see it later. That's the fun part of all of this. All righty. I'll share it there too. All right. So here we are tonight. Tonight is what's called the panel discussion. I have 5 of the 6 guest speakers that did an amazing job on the Cosmic Evolution Summit. Hopefully, each and every one of you had an opportunity to catch all of the speakers as they were sharing their wisdom, their inspiration, their stories, and obviously why they do what they do. So tonight we're going to have a lovely conversation in regards to what took place. Now, I'm hoping every one of us who are here in this group right now had a chance to go back and watch some of the other speakers so we can all have a nice conversation about the actual day itself. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to have each one of our guest speakers on the panel introduce themselves, and I'm going to go in the order that everyone's on my screen as, and I'll introduce myself at the end. So Krista, come on up, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Krista Ducharme, and you can find me Dimensional Healing with Krista on Facebook. I am known as the Traveling Crystal Crone from the podcast Three Crones and the Woo Woo. And I have spent all my life essentially working with crystals, whether I knew what they did and understood what was happening, or even going through becoming certified. And I do far more than just crystals, but that's what I was asked to do on this panel, is be the crystal expert. So I'll zone in on that. But yeah, I enjoyed being part of it. If you guys have thoughts or questions about crystals, I'll happily answer.
Excellent. All right, we're going to bring Nancy up.
Unmuting. There we go. I'm Nancy Nance. I'm Exponential Joy. The discussion that we had last week was in regards to the transformation of moving beyond the veil into death. What I specialize in is the entire experience of life before death, during the transition towards death. So I help people move towards a better place of being wherever they are in their lives.
Excellent. Love that. Thank you, Nancy. Tammy, come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name's Tammy Moses, and I spoke about detaching from our stuff so that we have the ability to make better connections. And I host the Hoarding Solution podcast and have a membership and some different things regarding hoarding resolution, but it doesn't have to be hoarding to be an issue. So it could be very helpful if you're able to clear your space or organize your space. And that's kind of what I focus on, and helping people just kind of move through that, whether you're a professional or if you're a family member that's dealing with someone else who has that issue. So happy to be here and looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Tammy. Miss Kitty.
Hi, I'm Kitty Budawake Foss, storytelling astrologer, reader of the stars. I signed up for this, and I swear this week was a big old tap on the shoulder all week long for a lot of people here I actually talked to. And there were things that came out of the symposium. So I want to thank everyone that I'm using, talking about crystals. Tammy, I've been saying to myself, just clear the space, and then understanding it also from that auric level. Been talking to my dragon and been saying, wow, Gus, all week. So that was one of the person that's not here. That's been a prayer. Wow, Gus, or Gus, wow. So, it's been, I was really grateful to be in the symposium. So thank you for putting it together, Joanne.
Thank you, Kitty. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom as well. I always enjoy your amazing conversations regarding astrology and all that there is involved with that. So thank you. All right, Sandra, you're up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sandra Pelly, the Inner Dragon Transformation Specialist. And one of my conversations on here was all about the inner child to inner dragon, really getting to know who the inner dragon was and the roles that beautiful inner dragon takes. And I'm truly from a whisper to a roar, like really stepping into your life by embracing the inner child and the inner dragon. And yes, it's been absolutely incredible to be a part of this, Joanne. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you, Sandra. And I have to say, out of all of the guest speakers that attended, I hate to say I had a favorite, but I had a favorite. Learning about the inner dragon was really something brand new to me. And I think that's why it was my favorite, because it was so brand new. And it literally gives me this other, I'm going to use the word other aspect to play in. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and inviting my dragon to come on so I can play with her. So thank you. Thank you. It was a great honor to have you here.
You're most welcome. Yes.
All right. So as we all know, now that you all know why everyone was, well, not why, but how everyone literally had an opportunity to share what they're doing, share what they did, and just a whole concept on each guest speaker coming in. And on this particular summit, it was very specific. I literally went out searching for the guest speakers to be on this one. As I move forward with upcoming summits, I'm not going to be selecting. It's more now going to be what universe sends to me. And it was so perfect, as Kitty and I spoke, I think last week during one of our lives together, on how the order of how each speaker chose their time, because it wasn't something that I had said to each speaker, this is the time you're coming on. Each speaker specifically chose the time that they were going to be speaking. And then once Kitty and I had the conversation the day before our event, we realized the order that each speaker came on literally told a story that literally started off with the inner child and literally ended with the death doula. So it was just so perfectly aligned. And of course, everything in the middle between, tapping into the astrology, tapping into clearing your house, making sure your space is up to par so energy can flow easily within. And then, of course, moving into our crystals, and then the Akasha records, which one of our guest speakers are not here with us this evening. She had other obligations, but she's here in spirit with us. And I'm sure between all of us, we're going to probably bring her name up a handful of times based on what she spoke on. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to just ask all of us to unmute ourselves, because again, this is a panel discussion that we're just going to bounce back and forth. And I know this is going to flow really nicely in reference to what each and every one of us got out of the speakers. And of course, there'll be questions and dictations in reference to what I'm looking for regarding, we'll start with Kitty. Like, Kitty, what was the thing that stood out for you the most regarding all of the speakers? Did you have a word or did you have a scene? What stood out for you?
Oh, I'm sure it's wow, Gus. That was when we looked at the Akashic records and the idea of, and I'm very familiar and really like the idea of glimmers and the idea of spirituality, but the frankness and the easiness of Gus standing for God. I put an extra S, by the way. God, universe, source, and spirit. So GUSS. And wow, weaving spirit, opening to possibilities and wonder and awe. So what a great fast prayer sometimes, walking the dogs, looking at the sky and just remembering to say, wow, Gus, this is cool. Or Gus, wow. That was a huge way to look at that voice in my head that says the shoulds, and so that was just like one of I really did take away something from absolutely everybody. Tammy, I've been cleaning all week, going through things. I've been looking at my crystals completely different. Nancy, because this has been Halloween and we've been talking about the veil and talking about ancestors and thinking about, I witnessed two death, both of my parents, my stepmother and my father, in the same year, very different. And then, of course, my little you rides my inner dragon. So it's very, so all of those things. So pretty much, I can't pick one, but I probably would say, wow, Gus, has been a huge one for me.
I love that. I love that. And I just want to remind everyone who is watching with us, if you have a aha moment from, if you had an opportunity to check out the summit and get to see every one of the speakers and you had aha moments from them, please go ahead and put that in the comments. We're all looking, well, I'm looking at the comments and I will be able to give some feedback based on your ahas. So Krista, for you, what was your takeaway? What stood out for you the most of the 5 plus yourself, the 6? I mean, and you can have something from yourself that stood out as well.
Well, for me, one of the big ones, I
It
missed.
sounds a little low.
Oh, sorry. Am I better? I'll look at my microphone now. I'll move my mic. I'm sorry. One of my big things for me is I need to go back and watch about the dragon. You guys talking about it. I caught a part of it and then I stepped out to do something and then you know how that happens, right? And I'm like, there's something about her dragon. I know I need to, and it's come up in my brain a few times this week. And I was like, oh, now I'm remembering. I need to go back and watch it, Sandra. But a big thing, I have to say, Tammy, thank you so much again about cleaning. We've all been cleaning out. Actually, it's funny. I have like this now huge pile of stuff to go and donate. And so now I just have to load it in the car and get it there. Got to do that part. The follow through, by the way, just as an FYI, it's always great to get the stuff together to go donate. Then you have to follow through by doing it. Right. But for me, the Akashic record, I think for me was my biggest takeaway, because there was something that was said that just, it clicked and I knew I had to, because I was watching or listening to everything on my phone while I was doing other things. And I knew I had to get to my computer so I could come to be in the back, on Zoom. I'm like, I have to do this. I have to be there for the Q&A. And that for me, I was very surprised because I had another conversation with somebody else who's close to me, not too long before, about Akashic records. And there was something in that connection with the two of them in their conversations that went, wow. And then, not the next day, 2 days later was my birthday. And a lot of things just unfolded. And I was like, oh, wow. Wow, Gus. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah.
Wow, Gus.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's always interesting to open the Akasha records right before your birthday.
Yeah.
The energy that comes through during that period of time is quite powerful. Even though, yes, the Akasha records were open for everybody, on the Zoom room,
Yep.
It can be very individualized as well. So, and doing that exactly a few days before your birthday is powerful. So thank you, Krista, for sharing. Nancy, for you, what stood out?
Well, it's wonderful the way that life will unfold after an event, right? You think that the one thing that you needed to hear the most is valuable. And then Gus, God, universe, source, spirit's like, yeah, no, I'm going to teach you a lesson on. And for me, that lesson was on the flow and energy of the environment that I'm in. So when we're looking at home, creating a safe space, a wonderful safe space in home where you feel very, very good. I've been traveling, so I was staying away from home. I
Mm,
was staying in a hotel. I was sharing space with another person. And for me, the ability to do my best to keep my space the way I wanted, when you're in a hotel, everybody's energy will come into your space. And the hotel was, well, I'm never going back there again. Not a chance. They could offer me a free trip. Like never. Hard no, never, ever, 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 ever. And yet I was able to remain pretty darn centered. I was very, very, very impressed. Like, I mean, I had done a great job. And then on the way home, when I went to start my car, it wouldn't start.
it's so interesting you say that, Nancy, about your car not starting today. And maybe if we have time prior to ending, Kitty can share a little insight with us based on the astrology of the day. Because my car did not start today. My car did not start today. My husband seems to think because I don't drive my car for several days in a row, and because it gets a little cold out there, that's the reason why it didn't start. But it's taunting that when you're expecting to get in your car to go someplace, and on top of it, you're on a time schedule that you have someplace to go, you have somebody to pick up, you get in your car, and it's like, huh? I mean, thank goodness for me today, my husband was like bringing his car to put where my car was so we could save my spot. And I said to him, well, change your plans. We're taking your car. We're going to have to leave mine because it's not working right now. We'll come back and deal with that later. And he's like,
Mhm.
oh, we don't have time to. I was like, no, we have to go. So I totally get that whole thing about the car. And like I said, maybe later Kitty can share with us some insight to why cars, technology. So
It's
go
a
ahead, Nancy.
technology day for
What was your
sure.
takeaway for
Technology
the
for
for
sure.
the six speakers, including yourself? What was your aha moments? Nancy, did you have any more to share?
Oh, I mean, I bring crystals with me everywhere I go. These are the things that I do to be able to live in the best possible joy space I can, right? Like when things go sideways, when shit goes sideways, it's all of these techniques that we use, right? Understanding that this is what I need to focus on, me, myself, and I, so that my energy can stay the best that it can, no matter what the situation is. And I'm human, so I'm not perfect.
Yes.
So all of these tools, I've yet to look at my dragon. I still have that uh window open on my Safari. So I'm like, mañana, tomorrow, I will, I'm like, please, Gus, please give me time tomorrow.
And what
Yeah.
crystal did you take with you? I mean, I know you mentioned you take a handful of crystals, but do you have a
Oh, I
specific?
wear crystal jewelry everywhere I go, so I was amped up with a lot. I don't know, I had about 12 bracelets on,
There you go.
a necklace. So when I do public speaking, I always have a lot of crystals on me because I'm just like I need that. I yeah, like I'm just
Wear
armored
them
up
out.
all the time, right?
Wear them
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Yes, exactly.
always, always, yeah.
Love that.
Mm.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Tammy, for you, what you got for us? What was your takeaway? What was your aha? What word did you stood out for you?
So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's letting me know what I shared was helpful. Sometimes you wonder if what you talked about resonates. And so I appreciate your kind words about that. I think for me, the lessons for me lately have been so much about fill your cup whatever that means for you, whether it's the crystal or facing your own mortality, being aware of the people around you, either here or spiritually, that are supporting you. And I feel like that has been my biggest lesson lately, is really being aware of what I'm putting out there. But that also means being aware of like what's going on the day of the week. What's this number mean? Listening to that little voice that says, go this other way. And I've had arguments with that voice before. That internal compass that said, I don't need to go there. Why do I need to? I don't need anything from that store. Why this parking lot? And I can't tell you how many times I've pulled into a parking lot and seen a vehicle that is just shouldn't be driving on the road because it has so much stuff in it. Like there's no room for passengers. The only person that could fit in there is the driver. I just start thinking, what's this person going through? What's their trauma like? What, and I also go into the store and be like, I wonder which person in here is that person driving that vehicle. And a lot of times energetically, I can really kind of pick that up before I even see the person. But I think for me, it's embracing your inner kid. It's being comfortable with the fact that someday we're all going to die, right? Like I accept that is the case. I have a lot of work I've done with Joanne is around your throat chakra. So I have a specific stone that I purchased that I wear. I feel, I guess, comfortable tonight. I didn't wear it tonight, but a lot of times when I feel like I need power or I need to really make sure I express myself, I make sure I'm wearing that, because it really does just give me an extra level of using my voice, I guess you would say. And I appreciate being asked to be part of this summit. It's always like, oh, okay, that would be good. And I've learned that showing up, just being part of that by showing up, is so valuable. And I'm just marinating on a lot of things that I have learned. So I'm sure I'll have more lessons that will be forthcoming.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tammy. And in regards to what you were saying about pulling into the driveway and seeing, or into the parking lot and seeing a car with all that stuff in, I often see cars similar where it's like, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff in there. And I was actually chatting with somebody, and he had shared with me that, because he too keeps a lot of stuff in his car. And I'm like, wouldn't it be easier just to clean it all out? And his statement to me was, well, if I clean it out, then there's space for people to come into my car. And that means I have to say no if someone asks me to take them somewhere. And rather than saying no, I just I don't have any space in my car to take you. So sometimes it's just a matter of not being able to, not to be able to say the no, as opposed to having a nice clean car. So.
And no is can be a hard word to hear, because it feels like rejection, even if it is not that, and that protectiveness, wanting to protect yourself from someone else being in your space. Well, anyway, a few years ago, I knew someone that needed rides everywhere they went, and discovered there were some other issues going on, and I had to really back away from that. But anyway, just because I'm like, well, I don't go out every night. Like I'm actually kind of a homebody. I'm not available. But being able to say no was just like, oh, that was kind of hard. So I kind of get that.
Yes. And Tammy, for you, Sue, Krista's mom, is thanking you for helping her to organize and figure out what she no longer needs. So she put that in the comments there.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yes. As I constantly remind Tammy with the work that she and I do, I thank her for one, because the work that she does and the message that she puts out there and sharing about what she's doing is so important because there's not a lot of people out there that talks about this topic. And there are a lot of people out there that do have, whether it's a little bit of clutter, and every time I say the word clutter, and every time I'm around Tammy, I always look at my table, and my table looks pretty much the same it did the other day when we were in the summit. Like, wow, except I think there's more on the table now than before. We all have clutter that we are surrounded by, and sometimes that clutter becomes a lot more than just clutter, and it becomes more of a hoarding issue. So again, Tammy, from like the deepest part of my heart, thank you so much for sharing the wisdom that you do share regarding this, because there's not a lot of people out there like you who are sharing this information, and we do need to hear it. We do need that reminder that, hey, you know what? Maybe we do need to sort things out, not just to keep the space clean, but also to keep our mind clean, because when there's just too much around, we can't really focus so well. So thank you again for that.
Well, and I believe that what you said is completely true, as well as the energy around us, no matter where we are. We can't always be at home. We need to be able to protect the energy, that energy bubble that we are, right? Preparing ourselves so that we're ready for that next adventure in life. Coming home after that last adventure in life, decompressing, taking an inventory as to how do I feel? What do I need? How can I remove these bindings, these attachments from me? Have you ever come home and been like, oh God,
Yes.
I love those people so much, and like it's like, oh my God, it's so draining, right? So
Yes.
so draining. If you're traveling with someone that struggles with anxiety, that can be draining. If you're working with someone that really needs to have things in control, that can be draining, especially if it's not in alignment with how you are in the world. So when you come back into your home, what practices do you use to get rid of all of those cobwebs, those bindings that you have to other people? Do you meditate? Do you know how to do self Reiki? Do you know how to remove those trappings from your body? Do you know where to place the crystals? Like that's also very, very important. I know when I came home, I needed to work through all of my chakras. Like every single one needed to be cleansed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Cleansed, cleared, yeah,
Well,
heal, cure, restore every single one over and over and over until I was able to move, allow that energy to move through me and out. So
Exactly that, and it's so true, because again, with everything we do in our day, doesn't matter if it's with large groups or just in and out of stores, we pick up energy. So it's really important to pay attention to our energies, because that could domino into other things we're doing in our day and cause us to feel overwhelmed ourselves, where it's not really our energy. We've just picked up something from our day. So yes, checking in on our chakras, clearing our chakras, and I mean, the easiest way for anybody, even if you may not know how to do self Reiki or work with crystals, just tapping on your body, tap it out, because that, I mean, if you feel like you have anxiety, and most people, that's usually the energy that most people end up getting when they're overwhelmed. It's like tap out the heart. It's like King Kong does. There's a reason why King Kong bangs on his chest. So yes, Kitty, did you have a question? And then I'm going to go to Sandra in reference to some of her thoughts. Unmute yourself.
it's kind of a segue to Sandra. I mean, one of the things I think that I started thinking with the crystal and the death doula, and certainly started with the dragon, is all what Tammy also, there's a shame we have around things like hoarding, having too many things. There's a shame sometimes we have around like not knowing even crystals, or how do I deal with death, or excuse my expression, the shit show sometimes that surrounds death, and what do I do with it? And that's one of the things I like about the inner dragon work, because that's when I call upon it when I don't know, when I'm facing shame. Shame is a really funny thing that happens. Like, I got too much. I'm ashamed of somebody get in my car. Why? maybe I'm ashamed of my anxiety, or I'm ashamed of the way my house looks. And we can put a lot of energy outside of ourselves with shame and not call upon those tools because shame hides. That's its very nature. So it's really very cool the way that these cross conversations happen.
Yes,
So
I love that. And Sandra, let's unmute you. Share with us what your takeaways were.
I just kind of want to bounce around here a little for a moment. The going into stores, I have memories of antique stores, places that have all kinds of people's energy. So yeah, that cleansing off. I've run through buildings because of the energy that I can't get out the same entrance. I have to go out the other way, and I've run through it instead of walking because of the energy that's in it. And it's usually antique stores. I love Tammy's marinating. That was really, really magical to hear that word. Um, what my biggest takeaway is truly that there's no mistaking the timing of this summit. There's no mistaking the topics of this summit. There's no mistaking that people in my community are coming back and saying, "Oh my God, I heard this person speaking about this topic." At this your summit, Joanne, the Cosmic Evolution Summit, and how much that was in alignment with my own life and what was going on with my own life right now. And even just, I really recognize now too that even that very first conversation that you and I had with the spotlights, I believe that you did, and you had all this pink stuff with regards to me personally, not just yourself, but me personally, and I hate pink.
Yes.
There was a big point to that coming up. There was a reason why even that came up in my life then, that I was being prepared for something I wasn't going to enjoy going through, and that's what happened, right? So it's really interesting to see the bigger ripple effect that's going on because of these conversations when a group like us come together, when groups, and there's not just us, there's so many beautiful little cells, if you will. And when you start to put those cells together, it's just really, really magical, the ripple effect that can happen. So
yes. Yeah, I remember the day when Sandra and I had the conversation about the graphic design I had given her for her topic, and how the colors came about was I pulled one color out of each person's dressing, whether it's their eye or what they had on in the color. And I really did not want anyone to have the same color. So it's like, okay. And when I had gotten to Sandra's, I was looking at what she had on, and what really popped out for me was her beautiful pink cheeks. Her cheeks were so pink and rosy that I was looking for something to match that. Little behold, did I know that pink was the least color she liked. And then on top of it, I think that day when I if I'm not mistaken, I think the day when I did your spotlight interview, I also wore pink on top of it. It was like, what am I doing to this woman? And what do I have on today? Yes.
So with that, it's that, there's something being triggered within myself. Like I'm fine sitting here with you wearing pink. Nance, the color that I'm seeing on my end, she looks like she's wearing pink. And I mean, really, I'm okay with pink in general. It was just comical that was the things that were happening. And as I said, it's the trajectory of the timeline and the things that I've been experiencing. So
yes,
yeah.
yes. And for me as a child, I didn't really wear pink. My bedroom, which I shared with my older sister as we were younger, and then once I had my daughter and I shared the same bedroom, and our bedroom wall was bubblegum pink. So because of that bubblegum pink, I just never really wore pink outside, because I'm like, that's a lot of pink. And I don't know, somewhere along the line over the last couple of years, I think because someone had told me, I think I had worn pink one day accidentally. Someone said, wow, you look really nice in pink. That's all someone had to tell me. So now I have to wear pink all the time. It's like, really? I look really nice in pink? Okay, so now I have to go out and buy lots of pink things. So yeah. So Sandra, thank you for being a champ with that. And whatever you learned about the experience of not liking pink and whatever came through for that, I'm glad you were able to get something from that. That's powerful. We have a lot of comments popping in. Let's see what else is going on. Yes, Cheryl says shines in pink. Ah, okay, yes. Love that. So Krista, let's come back to you.
Sorry, how to unmute. Yes.
Okay, sometimes we forget how to do that. So now this is gonna be more about your own topic. In regards to what you shared, what was like your big aha, if you can remember, like some of the things you said that maybe might be an aha moment for you now?
Okay, so one of the things I did is I loved my topic and when I picked it because I was like, oh, and I'll be frank, I had Chat GPT kind of help me with my topic because I have so much information in my head. And I have so many people ask me so many questions, right? And I'm like, so let me see if I can get some help. You know what I learned? I'm not going to do that again. I mean, I will, but I won't. Not the way I did it.
Yes.
Not because it wasn't full of great information, but I learned from myself because it was really cool and I loved the questions that I had created when I created them. But I like the organicness of the conversation. I am more, yes, ask me questions, but I also like an organic conversation. So honestly, if you ask me what I learned about my talk is I like the organicness. The other thing I loved about our talk with the organicness was the whole grid that came together. Now, we were going to talk about the grid. I knew that it had to happen. At first I was like, oh, I'm going to do it right away. And then I was like, no, it's saying to wait until new moon. So I will be honest, I gut everything out because it's a multi-step process. I put the crystals out in the early morning sun, so it gets, the great energy from the early morning sun before I start doing it, and I work Reiki and everything else. So I start putting it together because I couldn't find the proper base until this morning. So I've been working it, and as we're talking, and this is kind of fun, this is why I like playing with crystal grids. As we're talking, and as you guys are all bringing your energy, I'm sitting and I'm adding more energy into the crystals. So whenever you see my hand go over, it's because I'm putting energy into crystals because it's right next to me.
Love that.
And so, yeah, I'll show you. I'll take a photo and I'll upload it for you guys so you can see it. But yeah, I like the organicness of how that all just came together. And so thank you all for saying, yeah, I want to participate. But yeah,
Yes.
I learned lessons for myself, I guess.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think that's a big takeaway for many of us. I know when I participate in summits, what I learn about my style and what I appreciate and what I prefer, like I'm similar to Krista. I prefer to be organic. When hosts ask me, oh, send me questions to what it is we're going to talk about, I'm like, no, I don't want questions. I don't want questions. I want, you can ask me this, you can ask me this, and let's see where it goes from there. Because I do a lot of channeling with spirit. And I mean, even with questions, I mean, sometimes, I'll send them the questions and I'll forget what I sent them, which is very easy to do. It's like, considering I'm in so many summits, it's like, well, I know I sent them questions, but what questions did I send them? Well, it doesn't matter because they're going to ask me something and it's going to go from there. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that from you, Krista, in reference to freestyling and just let it be organic.
Yeah.
I love that. Nancy, for you, what did you learn about yourself while participating in this event? I know you do a lot of public speaking as well. So, and every event, I'm sure is very different. So for this particular summit, what did you learn about yourself?
Oh, I definitely love the free flow as well. If I know the questions in advance, I tend to overthink. I don't know if anyone else on this panel overthinks things. What's the right answer? What's the proper answer? And when I answer from my heart, honestly, it always works out. I also have learned to pause and say, pass, I'll take the next question. Because
Yeah.
there's some questions that I don't get anything or I don't have an answer.
Mhm.
I'm not an expert in everything. I can apply my knowledge to many things, and some of my knowledge just doesn't apply to the situation at hand, right? So yeah, the free flowing was an absolute joy for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
a true joy for me. I
I
like
love
that.
that. And
Yeah.
again, for me, when working and speaking, if something comes out of my mouth, it's very easy for me to say, "Wait, well, that was spirit. Didn't come from me. I just delivered a message." So whatever it was, just thank spirit for it. And I always credit to spirit. And when I say spirit, meaning my mom and anyone else who shows up. So if something comes out of my mouth sounding a little weird, it's like you'll see my eyebrows go up, like, really? You really want me to say it that way? Okay. And that's just how it is. So yeah, thank you, Nancy. Kitty, how about for you? What did you learn about yourself?
Well, one of the things is that I am very good at having people's back in the moment.
Oh my God. Let's give her a round of applause.
Well, it's not
Yeah.
it's not the first time I've done it, and so it kind of is like this is just a role. I got a clear understanding of how I step into that and liking it, you know. And I actually thought a lot about where I've done that in other places, in my life, other times in my life. One of the things I really liked, Joanne, I think I told you about the summit, was I really liked the structure of it. I like having a speaker. I liked having the individual time. And then I liked the half hour in between. I didn't feel like I was overwhelmed. The half hour was a nice amount of time. And I wasn't out of the swing, but I really, so I want to give you a compliment about that. And I just
Thank
like
you.
being a
Thank you.
student. As much as I'm a teacher, I love being a student and how I'm a storyteller. So now I've added your inner dragon into my story. It actually made it into, I've talked recently in something about death and, how you deal with death. I've talked about your energy, clearing your space. I've talked about so incorporating all of that stuff. So that's what I liked.
I love that. I love that. Sandra, how about for you? What did you learn about yourself during this event?
That I am getting way more comfortable with the inner dragon energy, because the inner dragon is fairly new for myself. I think it's fairly new for humanity, actually, and the role that inner dragon is really stepping up to play. And I'm really feeling the energy of how, in my continual stepping in, that the answers are being given to me. And I think I've heard everybody here say something basically the same thing, that continually stepping in and the answers are being given. And I think that's probably the most important takeaway, is that I do show up when I'm capable and the answers are being given. Right. And then the wow, Gus. Yeah, I keep doing the wow lots of times.
Yes. And Sandra, if I can say this, a word for you that I see is resilience. I mean, witnessing all that you've experienced from the very beginning of saying yes to this opportunity and everything that was going on behind the scenes for you, and being able to show up, on days where you didn't really want to, or days you didn't feel able to. So the resilience is what you showed. That's what I saw of you. Resilience. It's like, wow, I'm gonna do this, even though, like, yeah, I feel like crap, everything hurts, I have no energy, I'm tired, but I'm gonna show up anyway. And to me, I mean, I admire that about people, their resilience in reference to, you know what, there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes, but I'm just gonna show up and do what I came here to do. And that's the energy I get from you, is your resilience. So thank you for that, because I know witnessing all that you experience behind the scenes, and if the audience even knew all of what you experienced, they would be giving you a standing ovation right now. So Thank you. Thank you. Tammy, what do you learn about yourself, my dear?
So I was just thinking now, as Sandra was talking about the times that it's very hard to show up given whatever is going on, and the fact that I tend to beat myself up for that because I only showed up for 2 or 3 things within a month or something like that. And I think through this, I have learned that if you show up when you really show up, then you do need to take a step back and you do need to reflect on whatever you put out there, whatever energy you've collected. And it's acceptable and necessary to take that step back. And that's been very valuable for me, to just recognize that the times that you do show up, the times that you are resilient, and then also recognize the value of resting and not being caught up in I'm a human being, not a human doing, and I'm really good at doing. I'm not always great at just being. So I think all of these things have caused me to stop and just reflect more. And I'm finally writing again. And that's a whole nother story. But I had I don't know, I have lots of thoughts and things, right? But how do I get it out there? How do I get it to the world? And just kind of embracing that I've been writing since I was 11 years old. So it's not like a new thing for me. And I think that's why it was so frustrating for me to be locked up. I couldn't get it out. And so for me, I have shifted to, well, I'm going to write this and I'm going to share this picture and I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to just do it. And then we'll see what happens, versus there must be this outcome, which in my previous life, I have been very results driven. But there's also a time to say, okay, let's see what the impact is. Let's see where this leads. And I think stepping into this energy with a lot of different people who understand that was a real lesson for me, that you need to look at your energy and what's going on.
I love that. I do. I love that. And I love that statement, that expression, you're a human being, not a human doing. I love that because, again, we're always so busy doing, and it's time to just be that human. So I love that. I love that. Now for me, based on this event, the summit, what I learned about myself from the beginning to even to this moment, specifically, I think a big portion of what I learned about myself was literally within maybe the first 10 minutes of the summit, where we had all that lovely entertainment. Lovely entertainment. And I was actually sharing this conversation with a few family members, and they had said, well, if that situation occurred maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I probably would have tears strolling down my face of embarrassment, of oh my God, what are these people saying and why are they saying it? And yet, the version of me that showed up that day was more about, oh, I have 6 women here I'm doing this with, and I can't have tears strolling down my face. I have to stand up as the leader, and I have to, the show must go on. Whether or not I wanted to shut down my computer and go literally lay in bed and just cry, I'm like, how could that have happened to all of us? Shame, shame. And rather than going into that, it was just really about recognizing that the determination I had to this is happening. And oh my God. And again, I'm going to shout out to Sandra, because I know that Sandra has done summits, and I'm going to shout out to any other person out there who's watching, might be watching this later, anyone that does summit, oh my God, the work that goes behind putting together a summit. The summit itself, the spotlight interviews, and then of course this, putting it all together, the energy and the time that goes with it. And I have to say, the six, even though there's one missing today, the six women, what did this with, their energy is welcoming and powerful. And I enjoyed working with each and every one of them individually and then coming together. So it was a blessing to do this event, where again, my next summit, it's learning about the new guest speakers that are coming in, because I only really know two of them based on friendliness, and the others are just new to me. So just all the behind the scenes, and this new mantra that I have is, if they can do it, I can do it. There's nothing that I cannot do. And in my mind, I'm like, you might want to like sit back and reconsider that mantra just a little bit, because there is a lot. And again, I'm going to applaud Kitty, because she was really my backbone for the entire day, that she stood right there, took charge, sent out the messages to everyone she needed to send them out to in reference to keeping everything on track. And yes, there were some things that sort of fell, behind the scenes in regards to, like, at the end of my day when I was uploading different things, I'm like, where's this thing? Where's that thing? How comes this not here? What's going on? And again, beating myself up. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I did not record this, and what happened there. And of course, just bringing myself back in, reaming myself and say, okay, there's got to be a way. And I'm going to be getting to Sandra later to find out how to download that one or two recordings that were not recorded, because we got so excited about the moment. It's like, unlike Zoom that you have to press the recording button, StreamYard, you don't. StreamYard just allows you to record. If you forget, it's there, it makes it easier. But in any case, so for me, my takeaway was just a matter of all the I don't want to use the work. I don't want to use the word work, because it really wasn't work for me. It was really more like play. Like being able to put together, like Kitty pointed out to me, that I had a lot of fun with Canva, putting together everyone's graphics. And I did, because if I did this summit 5 years ago, based on my graphic designing that I did back then, it probably would have been torture, because one graphic would have taken me like 5 hours to do, where with Canva now, one graphic takes me like less than 10 minutes. So it was just a lot of fun, and enjoyed all the topics that were shared in the course of the summit, and of course the course of the week with the spotlight interviews. Those were a lot of fun. Coming up with those questions, that some of those questions came out of the blue. It's like, oh, I'm going to ask that. I'm going to ask that. And I specifically wanted to make sure that not all the questions were the same for each speaker, because I didn't want it to become boring. I didn't want the audience to, oh, she asked that question before. Oh, she asked that one too. I wanted maybe one or two to be the same, but for most part, them to be separate. So I enjoyed this event. So what I like to do now, during our time that we have remaining, I'm going to go around the room again, and I'm going to give everyone here an opportunity to again share, if you can remember, and I don't have it in front of me, so if you can't remember what it was that your offering was for the actual summit, you can make a new one if you can't remember what it was from the summit. So I'm going to go around, put your offer out, your complimentary offer, because we do have people who are watching right now. This will go on to my YouTube channel, and those who are watching this on a YouTube channel, can we all agree that maybe like a 30-day window, where if they see it 30 days from now, they can still redeem that complimentary gift? Yes, is that a fair enough time? This way here again, because I understand the concept of what each and every one of you are doing, that there may be a time restrict, that you don't want to be doing a complimentary session in July based on someone just seeing your offer. So, and if you prefer to have it where there's no expiration date, then you can indicate it when you say it as well here right now. So Krista, tell us your offering. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about crystals. It could be anything. And this is the same for all of you. It doesn't have to be about your topic. If you have something else that's going on, put that offer out there.
That was still the offer I had, and you guys can pick up on it. Oh, wait. Oh, something interesting just popped in. All right. So no, Spirit. Sorry, I have a new offering. So if you reach out to me through my Facebook page, Dimensional Healing with Krista, for the next month, I will give you a complimentary crystal reading. And for those who have had my crystal readings before, they are quite a treat. So yes, you will get a complimentary crystal reading. Usually it will last about 20 minutes.
And Krista, if you wouldn't mind in the Facebook page to go ahead and put your contact information, whether it be your website, email, whatever it is you want to,
Yep.
so people can reach out to you to take
Yes,
advantage.
I'll do that. I'll happily do that.
Thank you. And I'm not gonna pick someone to go next. Whoever's ready to go next, just raise your hands. Okay, Sandra, go for it.
I love this. Thank you so much again too for creating this summit, creating this space, doing the spotlights. That was so much fun. Oh, having said that, I'm going to zoom in. Go to my website, sandrapelli.com, and you will find my Inner Dragon Archetype quiz. It is truly evergreen, and it leads you on this beautiful path to really discovering a lot about yourself. So sandrapelli.com and look for the Inner Dragon Archetype quiz. It's all over my website. Thank you.
Excellent. And Sandra, if you can go ahead and just type that in the Facebook page there, that's where everyone can see that and grab it. Who's next to share theirs? Like I said, I'm not gonna pick you out. Who would like to go next? Otherwise, if you don't raise your hand, then I'm gonna pick you. Go ahead, Nancy.
I just popped mine into the chat. It's the choice, end of life, or live your best life planner.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Who's the kitty?
Mine is a short mini reading with your 3 big planets, because that's really any reading you need to understand those first 3 major players in your life.
Cool. Thank you. And if you could type that in there, Kitty. Tammy, you're next.
So I have an ebook about creating the space you deserve. I'm happy to share that with anyone who would like it. And I have a membership group that's starting, and currently anyone who would like to join, that would be free membership through the end of March. And after that, it'll be $27 a month for as long as you're a member. And if you have other questions, you can reach me at thehoardingsolution.com.
Excellent. Just type that in if you don't mind.
Okay.
I think what we're going to do now in the last few minutes we're together, or last 10 minutes or so, is we're going to go around the room and each of you can ask each other questions in regards to the topics, something you may want to know about regarding each other. This is an opportunity to do that. And we'll start with Kitty.
I'm busy typing.
Okay, we'll get back to you then. I don't want to interrupt you typing.
No, it's all right. I'm done with it. It's not highlighting, so. What would I like to ask? I would like to ask Nancy. Looking at, if you were a person knowing that you're attending, what is a way you would recommend to support the people in the room? Because there's always often a lot of drama, other things going on. And if somebody has a death plan, is it appropriate to ask all of those things?
If I'm attending what, sweetie?
Somebody dying, you're like, or you're in the hospital, or, talk about awkward conversations. You don't want to say, how are you? Well, you know how they are. I mean, so maybe some tips. I don't mean to be laughing. It's an uncomfortable
No,
yeah.
It's so different every single time that you enter a room where either death has already happened or death is coming. And honestly, one of the most wonderful things that I think that you can do at that time is bring somebody a blanket, a fresh, new, fuzzy blanket, a beautiful handmade meal, a handmade gift, whether it's yours or somebody else's, a candle, a physical object that you can bring to somebody and I love you. Please let me know if you need my support. Because then they will remember that physical thing. They may not remember even who gave it to them, but they'll have something to hold on to. Holding on to something physical really does help.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That was
Love
a
the
really
candle
good-
idea.
That was a great question, Kitty, and I love the answer, Nancy. And Nancy, you're gonna go next. You could pick one person that you want to ask a question to.
So I'm going to go with Krista. In regards to crystals, if somebody is brand new to the game of crystals, and I mean, I call it a game because it's fun. What top 3 crystals do you recommend for a beginner?
Oh, that is a great question. Because that is, that's a question that's asked a lot, and I love it. Usually what I do and say for people is an amethyst always, because I consider it to be a master healer. It's one of those catch-all stones. It can do all kinds of things for you, especially if you're open. If you're like, okay, let's see what can we create, by having this in my life. That's a really great stone. Another one that's a really easy, plentiful stone for people to get is a rose quartz. And I like that because it's very gentle, for a lot of people. Plus, when people look at rose quartz, they think of love. They think of compassion. They think of things that are bigger than themselves when they see a rose quartz. And that's when you start the game of crystals, and when you start playing with crystals, that really opens you up to possibilities. So I really like that one. And then, a third crystal, I'm really big on introducing people to smoky quartz first, even before I introduce them to a clear quartz, because a smoky quartz is a very soothing. You feel grounded and protected, when that's within your energy. And so those are 3, I think, really good beginning stones for anybody who's walking into this. I mean, I have others that you can substitute, but those are there. Nothing is too grounding where you suddenly feel like you're a great oak, or it's too high vibration where you feel like you're flying in the clouds. Those 3 quartz crystals are very, we'll say, middle energy, so that it helps you to balance, and you can just feel enough difference when you're starting to play with them that it makes you go, ooh, and your curiosity grows. That's what I would recommend.
Perfect.
And Krista, who would you like to ask your question to?
Okay, I'm going to ask Kitty a question. And mainly, I think I love the fact that you call yourself a storyteller, which, by the way, is always amazing when we identify that within ourselves. And I remember listening to your conversation and your upbringing, and maybe I missed the part where you fell into astrology. And I think that's what it was one of those, your curiosity. And what I think for me is, I find it interesting that, and I can't quite place the question of where I'm going, but what was the aspect that really, I guess, turned your tide to understanding that this was your path of, I need to share? And how did it start? Because for me, astrology, and Joanne will tell you, it's like, I'm really curious about it, but for some reason, it doesn't always click in my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how was your first steps to begin
Well,
with?
I guess the story would be, being a teacher, collecting stories, and how I always looked at life was in stories. And I was always a huge fan of the stars. I remember when Feifel sang "Somewhere Out There," that song was really powerful for me. I was a star watcher. And I had the opportunity to have my first chart done. I still have that first chart because that was when they had to draw them, do the calculations. There was no, you know, so when you schedule an appointment, they had a lot of physical work they had to do. Was on an island where I took a boat. Now, if you want to be drawn into doing something, you do, and this has been true in my life, you do it removed from what is quote unquote normal in your life. It sticks with you. Why I'm a Sagittarius rising, why vacations, why things. And so I sat there and I listened to the whole thing and what it was about. And she said, you have something unusual in your chart. And she said, and she only had seen this starting. I was in my early 20s when I did this. It only had started from like 1960 on, and it was all females that had seen this. And I was fascinated by that. And everything she said, I recognized. So key planet for me was Jupiter. I always remembered it being expansions and truth. It rules Sagittarius. And so once she did the chart, I listened to it and I knew this stuff. But again, I kind of thought everybody has an idea with astrology. And as time would go on, I would have these conversations, but it would be another almost 40 years where I wasn't just using it for myself. That I knew it was always in the background and I was always using it as a tool and thinking about spirituality and Jupiter. What expansion. And it was, you know, the great pause we all had in 2020. It was actually the death of my stepmother at the end of 2019. My father died in February. My mother died in December. And by the way, it was my Saturn return, which I knew, my second Saturn return. And I just started talking to other people about it. And they're like, did you study this? I'm like, well, no, don't you know this? And then I would run into people like, I don't get this. What are you talking about? And so that is how spirit starts to evolve. Just as Sandra was talking about, when I stepped into it, I could recognize it as a gift. I've been using it and doing the story for a long time. You know, I almost called myself the reluctant astrologer. And then I know that when I do readings, I tell it in a story. So you don't have to remember your planets. You just remember what they're there to tell you. And if you want to learn your planets, that's different. But I can at least tell you that it in a story for you to remember. I was a teacher for many, many years. And so I learned from children. And I have amazing, and it's in my chart, powers of observation and intuitiveness that I didn't know I had. I just thought everybody knew. I'd go to a meeting and I'd say, oh, well, he does that because of blah, 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 blah. And they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, I want to go, how do you not know that? But it really is for me, the story, how it awoke. The skills existed before the belief of understanding them did. Does that help?
It does completely, actually. Yeah. That helps tremendously. I love the fact that you just said that, you know, about going and removing yourself. Yeah. And it really reinforced that ability to like study or listen and understand. That was great. I like that. I'm a Sagittarius rising, but I'm at the 29th degree, which is about resetting karma around truths. And the rest of it is very physical. So for me, removing myself, just, you know, that's why, Tammy, what you talk about is so important. Even if there are people only thinking of it as the concrete, it's the representation of removing things or removing yourself that is this huge understanding of giving yourself the time and the space to let go. And I think I want you to know, Tammy, that if you had asked me a couple of years ago, what's my guilty pleasure, I would have said the show Hoarders. I was always fascinated. And then I would go clean something. Like as soon as I would like binge watch it, then I'd go clean something. So, you know, there's something in that understanding of
I can pull this together. I can figure out my space and my story. That's what I do with astrology to go on. So thank you.
Great, great question, Krista, and great answer, Kitty. I'm gonna turn it over to Tammy, because I have a question for Tammy, which we're gonna close this off with Tammy. Tammy, when it comes to whether it's clutter or hoarding, and either or, what advice can you give someone in regards to on both ends, someone who like approaches someone who may have a lot of things in their space? What would you say to that person in regards to walking to someone's space that has a lot of stuff? What would be the best advice? And then for another person who has just a lot of stuff around, not necessarily based on hoarding, but the word I'm hearing is like how to tackle the space to get the things away. So 2 questions in one.
So I think the most important thing when you're walking into someone else's space is doing your best to be non-judgmental. And so something like hi, I'm here today to talk to you, Jennifer, and wow, you've got a lot of books over here. Is there a certain type of book you like to read? And just addressing the person and who they are versus the stuff, because generally I can formulate this is what needs to happen right now in order to get this space clear or safe, but generally that person's not ready to hear you talk about it. And it can be perceived as very rude to come into someone's home and tell them what they need to fix immediately, even if that's really what needs to happen. And if you're looking at ways to declutter your own space or get clarity in your space, because even decluttering sometimes isn't it. Sometimes it's about ordering your thoughts about what are you trying to achieve in here? How do you want to feel? And how do you feel right now? Are you anxious? Are you overwhelmed? Are you irritated by the boxes? Which I had a box irritation moment myself earlier today, where it wasn't anything else except the box fell over and it was just annoying. But I think it's really important to figure out what are you trying to do in that space, and who else do you want to be comfortable if they come in? So I think you really have to assess what you're trying to achieve when you're figuring out what to do in your space. So and I'd just like to say what Kitty was talking about as far as removing yourself. Sometimes I need to step out of the room, step into a different space, and come back in and go, okay, this is what I was trying to accomplish.
Love that. And thank you so much for answering both of those questions, because again, as I said earlier, I do believe every one of us do struggle with our own clutter, where we get caught up. Every one of us are entrepreneurs, we're all artists, and we may have piles and piles of notebooks all over the place. And we tend to get overwhelmed by our own little clutter. And then of course we may have family members that when we do go and visit, it's like, oh my God, like what the hell's going on here? And obviously not the best approach. You're not going to their house to sort of nitpick on what they should get rid of and this thing and that, although there are people who do. So thank you for that piece of information. And again, I just want to thank everyone that showed up and shared their wisdom, and everyone who's here watching tonight. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And again, you can go over to my YouTube channel, Holistic Fitness NY, to find most, and I use the word most for right now, most of these speakers' stories are on my YouTube channel, and eventually over time, within probably a week, all of them will be there. And yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I want to thank this, the three who are still with me right now and everybody else who participated in this amazing event. And I'm gonna leave it there. And I know that earlier I had said I was gonna introduce myself. I always save it for the last because for whatever reason, the last slips my mind. For those of you who are watching may not know who I am because maybe we are on other pages. Quick intro, Reverend Joanne Angel Barry Cologne. I am the founder of Holistic Fitness NY and the host, presenter, whatever you want to call it in reference to the Cosmic Evolution Summit. And really enjoyed bringing these 6 amazing women together. For those of you who are interested, there's another summit coming up in February. Pay attention. I'll be posting information about it. We'll have another 6 amazing guest speakers coming in, and hopefully it will flow the way this one did, because these 6 amazing women today, during this time that we shared, really made this summit really enjoyable, pleasurable, and a lot of fun. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Kitty just to come on up for just a second, just to share some information regarding the energy of today, because as earlier, both Nancy and I talked a little bit about having some car issues. So Kitty, if you can just in a few words, only because I don't want to keep everybody any longer than they need to be here, if you can share in a few words.
Well, a big thing today was we had both Mars at 29 degrees and Mercury at 29 degrees, and 29 degrees before it was the last degree before they enter into the next sign. And that's always about resetting karma. And Mars was in Mars is in Cancer, and Mars in Cancer is not its happiest place. So it wants you to be protective. It wants you to align your will and nurture something. And Mercury was in Scorpio, which always wants to change things and have you take a look at the response. And so that particular dynamic stops you when you're at 29 degrees. Where do I put my will? And really, how am I going to respond? So there was a lesson available for many people today. And we had Mars is moving into Leo tomorrow, and Mercury moved into Sagittarius. So it's how to speak your truth when you encounter these things. And the best way today that was available was the Pluto energy in Capricorn with the moon in Scorpio. How do I look at what I know is happening for me? And can I look at it as something to learn? So, yes.
Love that. I love that. All right. So we're all going to say goodnight to everybody who's watching on Facebook. Thank you again for being here with us. And feel free to reach out to any of the speakers based on what they offered here tonight. And we'll see you again really soon. Bye-bye for now.